everyone, this is Shane from the Ecology Lab. If you've been keeping up with our posts, you would have seen a few weeks ago we posted a Get Back to Nature post about invasive species in Canada. Now in this post we had a little section about how to make bee houses out of invasive Phragmites, and I actually collected some from a local natural area and I'm going to be showing you guys how to make these bee houses. Before you collect your Phragmites, make sure you know it is the right plant. You don't want to be taking out any native vegetation. If you have an app called iNaturalist, that would be an amazing source to use to help ID this, or any other field guides that you may have. This is what it looks like. It will have the leaves coming out in an alternate arrangement you can see here. Another way to tell that this is Phragmites is to take this and pull this down and you'll see the ligule. There's no white fleshy ligule that is actually coming out, so this kind of confirms that it is Phragmites. Take off all of the leaves that you see on the outsides here. You only really need the hollow bamboo-like stems here. I just finished cutting off the leaves, but one thing I noticed is if you can collect stems that are brown and are kind of thicker like this, they're going to be a lot easier to take the leaves off. So after you've taken the leaf off, you're going to want to actually cut the stem into different little sections. Try to make them roughly around the same length, but it doesn't matter that much if they vary a little bit. Phragmites has these natural little nodes. So like this is a node right here, this is another node, and this is another node. So what these nodes do is they create kind of little walls inside the plant, which is good for bee houses because you want to have one point of entry for the bees, but you want the back side of it to be blocked off. When I'm cutting this one, since I have the node, like the little wall right here, I want the other side to be open access. So I see this node here and I'm going to cut it right below the node. So you can see it's hollow here, but this side's blocked off. So you're going to want every stem to be like this. So I'm going to cut the rest of them and yeah, I'll show you how it goes. So a tip for when you're collecting the Phragmites. Phragmites is a very bad, very invasive plant in Canada right now. Once it's introduced to wetlands, it can completely take over the area, and it's a very aggressive plant and it can outcompete all the native vegetation. It will create a huge monoculture throughout the entire wetland if it goes unchecked. It will also become so thick that it can actually strangle fish and ducks and any like wildlife that's caught in between it. It's a very hard plant to kill, sadly. If you pull it straight out, you're most likely to break off little pieces of the rhizome at the bottom, and then that will go on to create some more plants because it can reproduce through the rhizome. So don't just pull it right out. It's kind of stimulated by a disturbance like that. So if you are harvesting this and you want to try to kill the plant and you're cutting it, if it's in water, cut it underneath the water as far down as you can go, because if it's cut far enough down underneath the water, sometimes it will actually drown the plant. If you can do that, please do it. You might be helping out your native population by helping to take out some of these guys. Another thing to remember when you're collecting Phragmites is that if you're collecting it while it's flowering, that seed can like drop and distribute. So if you see that there's a flowering head on it, either cut it off immediately and put it into like a bag or somewhere where you know it won't spread. Or if you have a plastic bag with you, put a plastic bag, tie it over the seed head first, and then cut the plant off. So you're making sure you're not distributing and spreading more of these plants that we do not need. So from that bunch that I collected, this is all the usable kind of stems that I got. So when you're collecting, make sure to collect quite a few stems. Tie them together using string or twine. I think I'm going to use some rubber bands because this is all I have in my house. You want all of the pieces that are the open end facing the same direction, and all of the sides that are the closed end with the node facing the opposite direction. So I've collected all of my Phragmites stems. I've made sure that all of the nodes, so the closed ends, are on this side and all of the open hollow ends are on this side. So I'm making the open end here flat, and I'm going to be tying an elastic around them. And this will be a little bee habitat. It is kind of on the smaller end, so if you can collect more stems, collect more stems. Next time I will collect more stems, but this should still work fine. When you're thinking about placing your bee house somewhere outside, bee is kind of like a cooler, shady area. So if you can put it under a tree or under somewhere with shade, that would be great. If you don't have an area like that, put something over it to shade it. So if you have maybe a piece of plywood you can put on top, or anything that can cover it that will just provide a little bit of shade on top, the bees will love that. So I'm gonna find a place on my property to string this up, and I'll show you guys what place I decide on. So here's the final results. I tied it to this tree just with some string that I found, and I made sure to put it in a place where the bees would get lots of shade. So I tied it to a branch underneath my magnolia tree in my backyard. I also put it right next to my garden, so the bees will have lots of flowers to pollinate. This was a really fun project to do. It's also really important to help out our native pollinators because they're in decline right now. They really need our help, and they do us a lot of services. They're really good for our ecosystem. They pollinate our food and all of our flowers, and yeah, it really didn't take much to do this. So hopefully some bees move in. We'll see. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial.